Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly scenario in Noctie. Today we are dealing with this position, and this is a real classic because this is a rook endgame with 3 pawns against 3 pawns on the king side, and then white has got an extra pawn on the queen side. And when you play this type of rook endgames, the first thing you must understand is where to place your rook. And for white, the best is normally to have the rook behind the pawn, like in this game. Because what is happening then is that as soon as this black rook will move away, then white will push the pawn. So the black rook on a5 is stuck. If you cannot have a guard from behind, then the second best is to have a guard from the side, because then you will also give the rook the activity of taking away the black king from reaching the queen side. So sometimes it can be better even to have the guard from the side, but normally it's better to have it like in our position from behind. The worst is normally to be guarding the pawn in front of it, because then the black rook will be like on a2 or something like that, and have different tasks, like also protecting the pawn from reaching a8, but also threatening to take on f2 g2 if the white king moves towards the queen side. So the absolutely best is normally to have the rook behind, like in our game. And okay, so what do you want to do if you play white here? Well, normally, as always, you want to activate your king. So, for example, f4 would be a good move, just to make the king ready to reach the center. And after that, the king can either go to the queen side supporting the pawn, or try to go for the king side pawns of black. So, okay, let's say king d6, king f2, king c5, king e3. Now the white king is ready to go for the pawns on the king side. And the problem for black is that, okay, black can maybe play like, king b4, but then the white will play king e5. And if you take on a4, then white will be closer to the pawns on the king side, and white will win the pawn endgame. So black must try to do something else. And for example, f6, then king d3. White wants to have a position where black has to choose to go with the king to the queen side or the king side, and then white wants to go with on the other side with his own king. So rook a7, okay, then we push, that's what I said. King b5, black has got a new idea here, and that is after a6, the king will be ready to try to guard on a7, and then the rook will try to guard the king side pawns. So after g4, rook d7, king c4, king a7. But now the problem is that if white, for example, plays rook to a3, just waiting a bit, then black has got a problem, because you cannot move your king, then a7 will come, and if the rook moves, the white king will move forward. And or in the right moment, like for example here, white will be ready to sacrifice the a6 pawn, like in this position. White would play rook to d7, take, check here, and take on f6. And suddenly we have swapped the position from having an extra pawn on the queen side to have an extra pawn on the king side. But the problem for black is that the black king is so far away from the king side, so it will be hard to defend. So for example, king c7, king d5, king d7, check here, and you can see that the white king is coming forward. We have a shelter with a pawn on f4, so now white will win, for example, h6, rook g7, and king f8, threatening to give a check on g8 before, and now take, take, take. White has got 2 pawns more, and this is actually a simple win. So if you play this type of position with care, you should win with white if you also understand the ideas of letting black choose to go for supporting the pawn on the a4, white a4, or trying to support the pawns on the king side. Either case, white wants to go to the other side and try to win the game. Okay, let's see if I manage to do this against Noctie. But you should know that rook endgames, they normally say, is the most difficult type of endgames. So even though I know that this position is won, I'm not sure I can win. Let's try and let's see. So Noctie here we go. I will play with white and I play f4, I think, because I want to get out with my king, and let's go for that. So here we go, and you can see that white has got this type of plan to come up with a king somehow. The problem is that I will play g4 in the next move. Check. Yes, I will. I guess black will take. We'll see. Okay, I go up with my king. This is what I want to do. And now we'll see what Noctie is doing. I will go on this side. What I want to do is simply to be able to go to b4 and start to push the pawn. Okay, so this came. I play f5 check. I go here. You can see that now I'm ready to push like this. We'll do like this. Okay, so this comes. I give a check. That's now again. You can see that maybe I have to switch side like this. Okay, I go here like this. Okay, he goes there. I go here. So let's see what is happening now. Okay, so I push my pawn when I got the chance, like now. And you can see that the problem for black is that now what to do. Okay, you have to play this move actually. And now the question is, maybe I should play like, can I play like this? Okay, try this one. We'll see. Okay, I give a check here. And then I go here. Let's see. Okay, I go down like this. And my idea is simply to take this one and then take the other pawn, and that should be winning. But let's see. I go here. Now you can see my idea. Okay, but now that was a mistake because now I'd simply give a check here. And this is always the case when you play this type of positions, that what you can do is to go for a pawn endgame, but now I simply win the rook as well. So now I will win easily. So that was, well, what can you say? A huge mistake by Noctie, but on the other hand, the position was already lost. I could have won with, you know, this is so clear with a rook up, but I could, of course, would have won also in this kind of pawn end game that I was telling about before. Now we have, like, I will play like this, and soon there will be a checkmate like this. And now I can play different moves, but just let's go for a queen like this. I'll give it check. I'll bring my queen in. I will give a check. And then we have a checkmate. So Noctie wasn't able to defend the position, but this is a really good position for you to practice against Noctie. And when you have understood that you must give Noctie the choice of going to either the queen side or the king side with a king, and then you go to the other direction, I think you will be able to win. So good luck and bye.